All right. Welcome back. Doc May Diet Podcast, episode number 19. Got my good friend with me, Dr. Daniel Vish, aka the Hurricane. Guy's got a lot of good energy. One of my best friends from chiropractic college. Couldn't wait to have him on tonight. Gonna drop some knowledge about chiropractic. Want to talk a little about the thyroid and overall health and wellness in general. So Dr. Vish, what's up, buddy? How are you?
What's going on, man? How are you?
Much, man. Just had a good long day, a lot of patients, a lot of new patients, a lot of things going on in the office.
Yeah, same.
All good stuff. All right.
Helping a lot of people. It's good.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. All right, man. So first off, wanted to get your story of how you got into chiropractic. What led you down this path to choose your career you're in, man?
Sure. So I kind of grew up as a chiropractic baby, if you will. My brother had ear issues and stuff growing up. Went to every single doctor under the sun. Couldn't figure out his chronic ear infections that he was dealing with. And someone told my mom, hey, go see a chiropractor. So she did.
Go see a chiropractor for ear infections?
Yeah. So,
Okay.
Right.
Who would have thought?
So my mom was just like, well, what do I have to lose? Like, he's taken every antibiotic there is, like nothing's working at this point. So she took him to start getting adjusted, and next thing you know it, the ear infection started going away. And pretty soon, like, he was having balance and walking issues because of the ear infections. All of that cleared up. So when I came along about 2.5 years later, my mom's like, well, we're not making that mistake again. So I was in a chiropractic office since I was 5 weeks old.
Nice.
And always had just an affinity towards it. I was always, when my parents were getting adjusted, I was close by the table. They'd always say I was watching it. I was fascinated by it. And was that going to be my original career choice? No. I was actually a business major at Penn State in my freshman year, hating my life because I'm like, what am I doing? Like, I can't sit at a computer all day long. I can't sit and do numbers like this. It was driving me nuts.
Right.
And I was home at the gym, and my old English teacher from high school, her husband was a chiropractor, is a chiropractor, and we were just talking, and she's like, you always like wanted something with alternative health. Like, you always wanted to talk about this stuff. You used to write papers on that. Like, why don't you look into that? And it was like that horse kicking somebody in the head. I was like, yeah, why don't I look into something like this?
Right.
So yeah. So I just switched up gears, and I started thinking like, well, two of the people that are closest in my life to me were my grandfathers, and one grandfather was like Mr. Holistic. He did everything, as natural as could possibly get. He was 87 years old, never took a medication, wasn't on anything at all. He was just humming along, still taking care of his farm. My other grandfather, who I probably got my personality from, he was an electric human being, but he was diagnosed with cancer at 65. While he was treating cancer, they found out he had diabetes. He beat cancer, thank God. But when they had diabetes, the doctor just told him, here, take this magic pill, metformin. It's going to lower your blood sugar, and all is well. So my grandfather was like, yeah, let's do it, whatever. Not changing anything. I'm just going to take this magic pill, and all my woes are going to go away. So he started doing that and never changed anything. He figured, my blood sugar is a little high. Just, we'll go from 150 milligrams to 300 milligrams up to 1,000 milligrams of metformin every single day. And it destroyed his kidneys, which diabetes will do that anyways. Metformin can expedite that as one of the side effects. So both kidneys were under serious duress. Contracted shingles. He lost a kidney from shingles, which is crazy rare, but sure, why not? This guy, let's have it happen. And again, no doctor ever sat him down and said, hey, Mr. Vish, here's how you can change what's going on with your health. Here's what you can start to do to actually make an impact on this. Not let's just wait around and take these pills until we die.
Right.
Unfortunately, it's a lot of people are in that boat. So he started doing that, and nevertheless lost both kidneys, went on dialysis. And every other day for the last 11 years of his life, he was on dialysis. Even a kidney transplant, didn't save it. And he was, So, I mean,
that kind of reminds me of that book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Have you heard of that book?
Yeah.
So basically you have two different examples in your life. For you, I guess we could call it alternative medicine grandfather, or actually let's call it proactive grandfather, reactive grandfather.
Yeah, yeah.
Your one grandfather was proactive and keeping himself healthy, and the other one was reactive, and
Yep.
they both had very different outcomes, and you
Yep.
chose to follow one, grandfather down that path. So that makes sense. It's interesting. I knew that.
Yeah, yeah. So it was like just one of those things where it's like, that was they both, I love both my grandparents, or all my grandparents, but both my grandfathers very much. And it's like I feel like years of his life were robbed from not only me, but the family that was around him, like a big Pittsburgh Italian family, everyone's close together.
Yeah, yeah.
And like he got, unfortunately, like life got cut short because of just a chronic illness that he thought he was, or managing, if you want to call that managing. I guess it's just, if an airplane's crashing out the sky, I guess it's setting it down softly, if you will, but it's not,
right.
It's not doing anything to stop the crash.
Was it type 2 diabetes?
Yeah.
Especially with that disease. I mean, we all know by now it's hugely lifestyle related and hugely reversible with diet and exercise. So that makes it frustrating. Obviously, not all diseases you come down, like cancer, like, is there some lifestyle prevalence to that? Yeah, absolutely. But when it comes to diabetes, I mean, that's something you definitely have a little more control over. So that makes it more frustrating. For sure. But hey, if any positive thing came out of that, it helped you choose your career. So
and I mean, it's been, I think we've both been in practice now for what, 5 years now, 6 years. So taking that, story from that and being able to kind of help influence other people, it's like, in a way, his life with my other grandfather, they both kind of helped me package this thing, not only just change my patients' lives, but whoever they influence after that and their families. So it's kind of a cool little ripple effect to be able to take two separate things and use it for as motivation, but also as a way to just kind of help lead people. Because man, people are lost nowadays. There's just everyone's looking for direction, and there's a lot of misdirection. And unfortunately, in these crazy times we're in, that's just kind of the battle that we're both in.
Yeah, man. And people don't really know who to trust at this point.
Yeah,
it's crazy. You want to trust the public health officials, but they say something is completely false and deny it and suppress it, and then it comes out, a half a year later that, oh, maybe this is what happened. Specifically, I'm talking about, I mean, just not to get completely political and into all of it, but just the mere fact that they were completely shutting down the out of lab hypothesis for the coronavirus out of the Wuhan lab, and then all of a sudden they're like, wait a second,
that's where it came from.
I mean, that just goes to show you that the suppression of facts and knowledge and research under any circumstance is never a good thing. Not to get too political, like I said, I might talk about some of that later, but let's continue down here. So being in practice about 4 or 5 years now, maybe 5, 6 years, what have been the biggest things that, you've seen in practice and you've kind of taken into your own life and adapted? So what have you changed the most about your own personal health over these past 5 years?
Over the past 5 years, man, it's like, I mean, you knew me back in chiropractic college. I didn't have I would say the greatest foundation, even nutritionally speaking, coming out of it. Learned a little bit about it. I remember
you used to say, screw it, man, I'm fat. I've always been fat. I'm always going to be fat. That was kind of your attitude.
Yeah. And, but that was like part of, I guess, the internal struggle where it's just like, at the same time, I'm back to my grandfather thing, I'm sitting there thinking like, well, no, like, you're here because you think you could change that. So my mind already started shifting in that direction of like, here's what I could do to shift what I have, where my body's physiology is, what can I do to make it, the most optimal function, because I want to be able to lead my patients. So it's tough to help a patient take control of their own health if you don't have control of yours.
Gotta look the part. Yeah,
man, for sure. I've seen those Instagram posts, you looking shredded. So man, you're definitely living the part.
Photoshop. It's all Photoshop. I became a wizard at. No, I'm serious. I don't know how to do it.
The bronzing looks unbelievable. So your sun exposure has been great.
My father says that we have like a little bit of Native American in us. I don't know if that's true, but hey, it works for my skin. So
the tan looks great. So let's keep it going. But yeah, man. So I would say once I got into practice, I started seeing patients, and it's like the biggest thing that I've changed, and I'd say I was always kind of doing it with patients, but not as much like gumption behind it or as much like conviction with it, if you will, up until probably this last year when it's like when the pandemic did hit and you start seeing, okay, what groups of people are dying from this the most? And it's your obese, diabetics, people with 3 to 4 comorbidities. Right. So I know you've seen a lot of it in practice. I'm seeing it with my patients that are coming in there. It's like, okay, they're dealing with, neck, back pain, postural distortions, whatever it is that we're working with. Mm-hmm. And sometimes I'm hitting that plateau of like, okay, they've made 60% progress, 70% progress. Why are they not bursting through this? Well, looking at them, yeah, they're not the most healthy people. And you can just make that judgment. You can see how their body is. You can see the list of medications that they're on. It's like, why am I not incorporating more of this in my practice to drive this? And then it's been like a big shift. And then a person that's helped me most with that's my awesome wife, Emily. She's kind of, like I said, everyone always looking for somebody to complete them. She, I was in the process, I'd say back in 2017, 2018, when we met, of really like, I was eating healthy. I was doing crazy different things and just like dropped a ton of weight of what I was looking to do. But just fueling what I have, not having all the answers on how to do it. Luckily, she comes from a huge holistic background and just, man, it just kind of dumped gasoline onto a fire. And it's been awesome because she's come up with some awesome recipes, things we do together, which is great. But it's been like, life altering in that regard. It's just like, how can we start to, incorporate this? Or what can complete what I already have? And I've been able to utilize it with patients too. So that's been awesome.
Nice. So you looked at your patients and you saw, they're getting held back to a certain extent. And then you kind of, what could be holding me back in my own personal life? So for sure. Your patients almost taught you a lesson there too, which is good.
Yeah, man. You always got to be open to learning everything because there's lessons to be learned everywhere. Even in these crazy times, there's lessons to be learned in all of it. So
Yep. Now, is there anything that you thought, or you're kind of had your feet dug into the sand in terms of an ideology or a way to practice or something you believe so strongly before you graduated that you've either totally reversed or totally given up on now that we're actually been in practice in the real world? What has been basically what about the real world and real life practice has changed how you thought or believed about chiropractic, if it has?
No, a lot of things, man. I've incorporated a lot more functional movement stuff with patients because we both come from a CBP background or chiropractic biophysics, for those of you who don't know what that is, and structural restoration, which that stuff is top tier, top of the line stuff. Unfortunately, it's very hands-on, it's very intensive, and it can be a lot out of pocket for some patients that try to stick through an entire program because it can take months sometimes to do a lot of that. So I don't ever want someone to have finances that stands in the way of what they're trying to do with their health. Mm-hmm. But obviously we're in a business too. I can't just treat everybody for free. Otherwise I'm not helping anybody. Right. So trying to like get more bang for their buck and give them other tips, especially people again who may be financially struggling. Hey, here's some things you could do musculoskeletal wise. It's going to help at least enhance your movement pattern. So you're able to continue to do things you need to do. And then, we can work on restoring the curvatures of your spine. So I would say doing more of the, again, like functional movement, freeing up loose muscles, teaching them how to move, teaching them how to exercise, which muscle groups to exercise in conjunction with other muscle groups, and why that's important to make sure those are, working together and not against one another, so they're able to get there.
So basically, looking at, we have our top tier, we have what we know is best for the patient, right? Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. But having kind of a drop down from that tier to meet them where they're at, if we need to, if it becomes a financial situation, like, okay, maybe as opposed to when you're in school, you're thinking that every patient needs to do this. This is the only way. There's only one way. Like, you have to develop different ways, have different tools in your toolbox to meet people where they're at. Whether it's not even just money, but time. Hey, I live an hour outside the office. I only need to come and trust you. What can we do with this? So
Yeah.
Basically, you got to be flexible. The guy be loose, a little less rigid, and you might probably work come out of school.
Yeah, for sure, man. And it's like, I don't want to call it an ego thing coming out of school, but it's because we're like horses coming out of the gate. You're excited. You want to get going, and you're thinking, I have the best thing for people. But a lot of the times we get kind of caught up in our own selves, and we're not listening to what's going on around us, and we push right past the patient. We're not reaching anybody that way. They're not getting results. I'm not happy in practice. So it's been a great little thing to kind of meet people with. And again, it's helped. I feel like I would be able to help more people now, and it's easier on me mentally too, which that's just as important, because it's, we're physically drained trying to help people.
Oh yeah.
We got to be on
our energy. If we run out of gas and we can't go, we're not gonna be able to help anybody, like you said earlier.
Yeah.
What's been your well, not even just practice, but what's your favorite part about chiropractic?
Favorite part about chiropractic, man, honestly, it's the doubters coming in thinking this is all hoopla, and having them go from like crazy antalgic lean, like to standing up straight completely, to that numbness that was in their foot, and they, couldn't walk, they couldn't run, couldn't do something, to all of a sudden in less than a week, they're like, hey, I'm picking up my 2-year-old child again, thinking it was never gonna, this is all a bunch of crap. But it's like, that to me, I think is the best, because it's like, well, I never make a guarantee with a patient, because that's just a slippery slope to making people not necessarily be happy with you, because if you overpromise, underdeliver. But when you're straight with someone and then you over deliver on top of that, it's awesome to see what they're able to, like, how they just come around, what their whole demeanor changes. That to me is the most rewarding. And then just seeing them, like, hearing what they're doing with their life, because it's like, oh yeah, whether it's, I had an 84-year-old patient who was turning 85, and his big thing was, I want to keep playing golf until I can't. And I'm like, okay, what does that mean I can't? He's like, well, I have to walk 18 holes on my birthday every year. He's like, that's just stuff I did for myself for the last like 40 years. I'm like, dude, that's nuts, but that's awesome. Like,
yeah, cool. Go for it. Arbitrary.
Considering it's in November, and this was in New Jersey, so it's like November, you're walking 18 holes. Like, it could be like 12 degrees, dude. That's a little nuts. But the last I saw him, because now obviously I'm in Florida, he walked his 18 holes at 85, and he shot a 79, which is like, nice. Again, bananas. So
go, man. There you go. Yeah. What's something about chiropractic that you see out there other chiropractors doing that pisses you off?
Do we have time? No. Dude, there's honestly egos. And the egos are the biggest, I think, problem in a lot of things in healthcare and society.
Why do you think that is? Let's stop there. So you think it's because we get like a God complex, playing doctor? Is it, do we like, are some chiropractors or some doctors in this position not because they want to help people, because of how they feel being the authority, being the person who helps people?
Yeah, I think that could be a part of it. Because again, the chiropractors I'll mention specifically, I had a patient that came in today, and they've been seeing a chiropractor who just does not believe in working with any kind of soft tissue in conjunction with the adjustments. And this person's had a major issue going on from their neck here into their shoulder that's limiting their arm motions and movements, and they're not able to sleep. And they they got adjusted, and they said it felt fine for like 5 minutes, and then it became even more intense. So this chiropractor was like, I'm only going to adjust. I'm only going to adjust. I'm only going to adjust, which is like beneficial to help a lot of people. But we're missing someone. We're turning somebody away. We're turning that around. So that is my biggest issue. It's like this idea that my way is the only way to do things. Like, dude, if someone said they did a handstand for 5 minutes a day and it took their lower back pain away from them, it's like, I'm not gonna sit here and tell them not to do a handstand. Do it. Like, do it 20 minutes if you can. Like, whatever, that helps you. Great. That's awesome. But it's like, there's just not a cookie cutter mold. We're bio-identical individuals, all of us. I mean, you're 6'5", aka 6'8", depends on who you're talking to. But I like to think I'm tall at 6 feet, but like, we're vastly different in our heights. So we have different forces in I'm trying to say, like wear and tear that's happening on our body. So we can't both be put into the same exact mold. Otherwise, one of us is either going to benefit or neither of us are going to.
Totally
more than
different.
likely.
I mean, we see that every day. I mean, you have somebody who presents the same. They could be basically identical twins, right?
Yeah.
Same height, same age, same structure. One of them is going to respond great to a therapy.
Yep.
The other one is going to be made worse. I mean, we see it all the time. So, yeah, I agree with you. A lot of ego, that has to be ego that gets in the way. It's either ego or it's plain negligence and laziness.
Yeah.
It's one of the, for sure. It's one of the two. You pick your evil, but yeah, to force patients into your approach and shove a square peg into a round hole and just do it over and over and over again and keep taking their money for it.
Yeah, man, I'm with you.
Better. That moves past ego and moves past negligence into corruption, essentially.
Yeah, for sure. And that's it's in every profession. You see it. I mean, I had a lady that came in on Monday, and she was bawling her eyes out. She's all upset, and I'm like, "What's going on?" And she's like, "Well, I had a bad migraine." Mind you, this patient's had migraines for 27 years, daily, so bad. She literally said she was filling out a will because she was thinking she's going to die from them. It's that bad.
Wow.
So never went to a chiropractor, came and started seeing me. And literally in less than 2 weeks of just working with her, she was completely headache free for 6 days. Had a headache come back on the same day. She had a follow up with an orthopedic doctor, orthopedic neuro, whatever. It's like a whole group here in Jacksonville area.
Okay.
And the doctor looked at her and said, he goes, "You have to stop going to the chiropractor." And she's like, "Well, what do you mean?" He's like, "He's going to paralyze you," is what he told her. I'm sitting there thinking, okay, like she's telling me this, but this terrified the patient. She thought for sure, she's like, well, your condition in your neck. And she had MRIs. I looked at all this stuff, like the mildest of the mild herniations, which for her age group was extremely common. It's an incidental finding 90% of the time.
Exactly.
Yeah. So it's not even like it's
people walk around outside, have a minor disc bulge somewhere.
For every decade of life, 30% of 30-year-olds, 40%, 40, you can do the math as it goes up. You're going to have a herniation. Doesn't mean it's symptomatic. So we're not treating the film here necessarily, but mind you, like, I think the report written up as a 1.5 millimeter broad-based herniation. Like, you could argue that's even a disc bulge, not compressing the cord, not doing anything along those lines. There's zero chance of like paralyzing this patient as long as you're, following and treating the person smartly. Great. 27 years of migraine headaches. I've been working with her for 2 weeks, and migraine headaches gone, completely gone. For them, one came back, and he tells her stop doing what she's doing. To me, it's like, if I'm in that position, like, I'd be like, what's this guy doing there? Why? Maybe other migraine patients that I've been treating for years that aren't getting better. Maybe I should call and talk to them. That's where I'm at with this. Because if I'm seeing other doctors, I mean, physical therapists and chiropractors have always butted heads, but I have some great friends that are PTs that it's like, yeah, I don't know everything, like, but I'm willing to learn about it. I'm willing to ask, how can I incorporate this to help more people? Because in the end, it's not about me. It's about who I'm able to be around and work with.
It's not about who's right. It's about what's right.
Exactly. That's perfectly said. So yeah, so the ego, man, it's just like, I don't know if there's any kids that are going to chiropractic college listen to this, but don't have one. Like, just be open-minded, and think critically. Take a step back for a second and like think through it, and then see what makes sense.
Yeah, I said this in the podcast last week. It's impossible to know, or it's impossible to learn that what you think you already know.
Yep, for sure, man.
What are your thoughts on chiropractic and X-rays?
Oh, necessary, dude. Absolutely necessary. Okay. I mean, you probably remember in our radiology classes, you start to learn about all these crazy things you're going to see on a film, and you expect to see that in every patient. But my very first day in practice, I kid you not, comes in, he's 7 years old, and the school nurse looked at him saying, thinks he has scoliosis. We're like, okay, well, let's confirm it with an X-ray, because his shoulder was elevated like this, his posture bends over, you can see it in there. And we started talking to the mom. He was also having almost like fainting spells and like getting dizzy, losing his balance. He was playing football when he was having collisions, he was getting up. He was very like uncoordinated, couldn't really like They couldn't catch a ball, couldn't do anything like this. So it was a bunch of crazy stuff going on with him neurologically.
Right.
We x-rayed him. We said, let's do full spine x-ray. I have still to this day have never seen anything like it, but he was fused from his occiput all the way to C3. It was congenital fusion. So he had just a crazy, his chin was stuck in a flex position, kind of like this, but it was all solid bone. And they believe how it was from what we've found in ortho to look at. They believe that it was causing a cyst to form in the center of the spinal cord, which is why he was losing his balance, why he was having all these issues. And then on top of it, the scoliosis was a pseudoscoliosis. He had a hemivertebra T5 or T4, right around that area.
It's a hemivertebra.
Where half the bone forms. So in other words, instead of it being like a square, if you look at it that way, it's kind of like a slanted triangle like this. So the rest of the spine has to build on top of that.
Just wanted to clarify. I don't think many people know what a hemivertebra.
Yeah. Sorry, I get a little fired up
and
get going. But so he had that, which was causing scoliosis. Now, if we don't X-ray that kid, I guess the severity of the cyst that was forming inside the middle of the spinal cord, if he would have had any kind of other major collision playing football, or he was a wrestler too at 7 years old, the doctor believes it could have either paralyzed him if it had burst or done anything, or stopped his breathing. And that's a real thing. The chances of that minimal amount of radiation causing any kind of long-term damage on that patient, to me, it's stupid to even sit here and argue why we shouldn't do that. It's absolutely ridiculous.
We're probably getting more radiation right now from our computer screens.
Yeah, dude, I know. It's no one. What did they say? The amount of radiation you can take in a year is equivalent to 630 some cervical X-ray series. That's 3 X-rays. That's 1,800 X-rays. Nobody's doing. If you're getting that many, maybe find a different practitioner, because that's probably not necessary. But let's be honest, the 4 to 6 we're taking on an average on a patient.
Yeah.
The risk to reward is not even worth talking about.
So say that kid went to another chiropractor. I mean, let's take the extreme example. All right. So best case, he responds well, we're good. But what's most likely going to happen is that chiropractor is going to do his technique on this kid. And he's going to keep forcing it. The kid is not going to respond well because he's freaking congenitally fused. Yeah. It's going to cause headaches. That's one of the better scenarios. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And everything on the other side of that is what you mentioned. So to not take an X-ray, you might as well practice with a blindfold on, in my opinion.
Yeah, for sure, man, for sure. And a lot of times it's like, you don't, we're going to talk about the thyroid here, I know, a little bit from what I was hinted on, wink, wink. But when it comes to even a blood test, when it comes to an X-ray, when it comes to an MRI, we're not treating just the film. That's a confirming tool that we utilize to see, hey, this is what's going on. And then if there is something that's extremely abnormal, we're going to treat that also. So it's all encompassing. I mean,
not only does it enhance, how we can treat you, it also could save your freaking life. I mean, how many cases do we learn about in school where, a guy has a bad day, man. He falls off a motorcycle, presents, you take an X-ray, boom, you found out he has freaking stage 3 cancer.
Yeah, man, it happens.
You could say that you have a story like that, right? Of a patient who you caught something early on. This is a lady earlier this year. So right before my wife and I moved from New Jersey to Florida here, this is one of my last patients I was treating. She came in probably in December, right around Christmas time. She had referring pain going from her neck down into her arm, and her C5-6 disc was crushed and degenerative. And I mean, a neurosurgeon would have probably tried to fuse her, which thank God she came to see me first. Started doing cervical compression extension traction as well as the Deneral, which that's a form of how you remold cervical curvature. She lost her proper lordosis, or C curve view, or banana curve. Started utilizing that. All those symptoms started going away. Her curvature came back tremendously, about a 50% reduction in the 3 months we were working with her. She was on a maintenance plan now. There's only so much we could do to bring that back. But once, it was every other week, she was coming in just to make sure her body was right, because she was a school teacher, in and out of things. Well, she started developing low back pain, which
she said like, it's so rare. It never, like, I never even brought it up beforehand, but I'm like, okay, let's see if it's musculoskeletal. She's like, no, it goes, it only comes on. I go to my primary care. They think it's a urinary tract infection. I take an antibiotic and it starts to go away. I said, okay, yeah, it's possible. Yeah, sure. Takes the antibiotic, didn't go away this time. I'm like, all right. So I was like, do you have any blood in your urine? I asked her. She's like, well, I have, like in the mornings, it's just like a brownish color. I'm like, well, I think it could be blood. So I was like, call your primary care. Let's get you with the urologist. I was like, let's get a, what do you call it? The ultrasound, but it's, ultrasound of the kidney.
Yeah.
Sorry. They do an ultrasound of the kidney, and unfortunately, the urologist was going on vacation. So the results came back and they said they found something on the right kidney. So I had already ordered an MRI of the lower back just to make sure, because we had x-rays, like make sure there's not a disc that's been herniated in here.
Yeah.
But the MRI came back and she had stage 1 kidney cancer. And you could see the growth growing on the inferior pole of the right kidney. And it looked like cherries hanging off of it. So I saw that MRI. It's like, yeah, you got to get this looked at by a specialist immediately. Sent her to the oncologist, who had then the facts come over from the ultrasound, did a CT scan, confirmed it. And he said, well, he goes, I mind you, I had to push for her to get this, the ultrasound of the kidney. When she was going to her primary care, the doctor was like, no, it's a urinary tract infection. We've done this for
Doctor
years.
Didn't want to order it, right?
Didn't want to order, which an ultrasound, there's no reason not to. It's not even like at most it's going to come back fine. I don't think there's any adverse reaction ever been
extremely uninvasive.
Yeah. So she kept pushing it for me, and finally the doctor got annoyed. It was like, yeah, fine. That's the first part of the story. I didn't want to badmouth medicine too much, but so came back and the oncologist said, yeah, your chiropractor may have saved your life by ordering, pushing to get these tests, which she's a sweetheart. I'm going to send this episode to her, but she's she was crying, gave me a big hug. And, like I said, it's little things like that imaging, like if you don't do, like stage 1 turns into stage 4, it's metastasized the body. Now she's having other symptoms other than just back pain and other symptoms of, instead of just like maybe a little discolored urine in the mornings, like to who knows what. And,
fast.
And being in her 40s, like there's a whole lot more life to live than not. So,
Cool, man. So you mentioned the thyroid. I know you want to talk about that.
Oh yeah.
So you've been dealing with a lot of thyroid patients lately, or what's your interest in that?
So the thyroid, like it's something that kind of hit home with my dad, because my dad's been dealing with a thyroid issue. And this is, something that's probably been going on for years and he never realized it. His sisters, he's got 4 sisters, they're dealing with something also. Okay. My wife was dealing with something or is dealing with something with hers. And you start to read on it, like thyroid conditions are insanely common now. It is
very common. Often missed by the blood work done for it, like the standard T3, T4, TSH. Like I think it misses like 68%. I read recently. Thyroid issues because it's considered subclinical.
That's the thing. It goes back to not treating the test, but treating the patient that's in front of you. So you have people that are presenting to you. Maybe they have chills. Maybe they're having hair loss. Maybe they're having weight gain, weight loss, irritability, fibromyalgia is tied into this stuff. A whole lot of things. Right. Can't sleep. All of these things. And how does it relate to the thyroid? Let's break it down. If anyone doesn't know, the thyroid sits right in your throat, right here. It kind of looks like a butterfly almost if you look at the organ. But it creates thyroid hormone, right? So there's T4 and T3 are the 2 main hormones it creates. And honestly, it's about a tablespoon that it creates per year, which is not a lot. It doesn't sound like a lot, but in a microscopic level, it's a ton. Mm-hmm. Every cell in your body, every single cell in your body has receptors on it for thyroid hormone. Every cell's using it. So it's important, but we need to pay attention to this. I mean, this is something we need to educate doctors on more also, but this is something that maybe your patients and people can listen to, hey, this is something I need to get checked. It's more than just the blood work too. It's more than just, hey, what's my TSH levels? Which is a bad test anyways. They're not bad. It's just not the most accurate. Yeah. It's too big of a range, but that's, again, we could talk about that also. But when they're looking at TSH, sometimes that's kind of in standardized medicine now, that's your gold standard of how's your thyroid functioning and what is TSH? Is thyroid stimulating hormone. So your pituitary gland, which sits right in between the eyeballs here in the center of your brain, creates a TSH, or thyroid stimulating hormone. It secretes it out. It makes its way through your blood till it gets to the thyroid. Thyroid then produces two things: T4, T3, a couple other hormones as well. But let's just, for argument's sake, let's keep the T4, T3 to keep it simple, right? Now, T3 is like lighter fluid, and you light a match next to it, it's going to go. That's the active form of thyroid hormone. T4 is inactive. Keep that in mind, because we're going to talk about that in a second here. But those circulate throughout the body. Now, certain cells are able to use the T3 immediately. Other cells need T4 to be transported into it so it can be turned into T3 and be utilized. Now, if that balance is out of whack, if you're creating too much T3, T4, TSH levels go through the floor. They drop way down, right? That's considered hyperthyroidism, because this is overworking. This is doing too much.
Why do they go through the floor?
What are the reasonings for?
Why does TSH go through the floor?
Oh, if it drops out because the thyroid is creating too much of T3, T4. That's what the TSH levels will drop. And there's environmental factors, which we'll also talk about.
Because pituitary is recognizing that thyroid levels are high, so it down regulates the secretion of the TSH.
Correct.
Right. Okay.
That's correct. Yeah. So then the opposite's true, and honestly, more often than not, the opposite is true, where the thyroid's underproducing. It's not producing enough of the hormone, or the thyroid's producing the hormone, but your body can't utilize it, which is something, that's what I really want to talk about today, mainly because this is something people can all sort of do in a second. Now, that causes the pituitary gland to be like, holy crap, we need more of this. So it starts secreting that, make more. And your thyroid's like, okay, I got to keep making more. And if your body's not using it, it's kind of like, it's almost like building a house not to live in it. It's like, okay, like, it's waste. It's
keep building these rooms, but nobody knows they're there. Nobody's going in them. It's not dissimilar to how the pancreas reacts when the body won't take insulin. The pancreas keeps pumping out more insulin, but the body's not using it. Similar with the thyroid.
Which, the pancreas is part of the endocrine system. Your conductor, if you will, of like a symphony, is your thyroid, right? So they're all working together. So if that's out of whack over here, other endocrine glands inside the body are going to also probably have issues, which is something my dad, again, is dealing with diabetes and stuff, is where his is at, because he's not your typical diabetic patient. If you look at him, he's like 130 pounds soaking wet. Right. But a thyroid condition's been going on for years inside him. Well, now it starts to make sense a little bit.
The downstream effect is going to be pancreas isn't working as well.
Correct. Now, what causes the body, again, with TSH going up, and why this is kind of bad, because the medical world will just look at that test alone and say, well, yeah, you know what, this is, too high, too low. You need levothyroxine. You need, what's the other word I'm trying to think of? Not super popular. Synthroid. All those things.
Synthroid, huge one. Yeah. Which are synthetic-based hormone replacements, which have side effects because, again, they're not natural to the body. But they take your body. They tell you to create, or they're giving your body more of the thyroid hormone to utilize. And it's like, okay, if your body can't utilize it, though, if that's the underlying issue, it doesn't matter how much you're taking, it's never going to cure the hypothyroidism, right? Right.
Now, earlier when I was talking about T3, T4, this is where this kind of comes into play. The numbers that are on there, why is it T3, T4, is iodine, right? Iodine is crucial to have in our systems, right? So T3 talks about how many molecules of iodine are on that thyroid hormone, and T4, same, right?
Yeah.
Now, T4 is very stable. It doesn't want to, it doesn't really react to anything. It's not really a useful form of the thyroid hormone.
You said it's inactive.
Yeah, it's an inactive form essentially of the thyroid hormone. Just for argument's sake here. Yeah. Now, in order for it to go into the cell, it has to transcend into a cell that can use it. So it's got to transform something called the sodium iodine symporter, which sodium and iodine molecules switch places. Boom. Now you have T3 active inside a cell. So this is where, again, medical world and I would say my world and your world will clash, is salt intake. Now, salt intake for years has been said, don't take it. It's going to spike your blood pressure. Don't eat salt. It's terrible. Gosh, walk through your grocery store, low sodium, low sodium, low sodium. And it's bad science, where they got from that, which we won't dive into, but your body needs salt. Your body is made up of
minerals,
a ton of salt, minerals. Exactly. Yeah. So iodized table salt, it has iodine in it, not enough that your body needs for your thyroid, except not to produce a goiter, but iodized table salt devitalized. They make it this pure crystal white. When you look at the back of Morton's, it says impurities removed.
Right.
Those impurities are the nutrients that you and I need. So it's impure to the eye test. It makes it look grayish color, or like almost like a brownish black color to it. But those impurities are, again, a lot of times minerals that we need. An unrefined salt, you get into your system, it's a great mineral balance, but it's going to keep your sodium level high, or sodium level in the optimal range, which then allows your thyroid hormone to utilize that and switch places. So T4 can be converted to T3, which in return, now your body's using the thyroid hormone, which can start to balance out those levels also.
Gotcha. Then the TSH will either, whether it's too high, it'll come back down, or if it's too low, it'll come back up. So to regulate.
Correct. It helps not regulate.
So you think a lot of thyroid patients, I mean, fair to say a lot of them that are on medication don't necessarily need to be on medication, just need to intake their unrefined salt intake?
Yeah, I feel like, again, it's more tests need to be run. You got to find out where this person's mineral balance is. You got to find that out in the blood work. But you also, again, we're on the Doc May Diet podcast here. You got to look at dietary intake. When we were kids, we learned about the periodic table of the elements, right?
Right.
And it's organized in a genius fashion. Now they put them in columns and rows and everything else. There's something called the halide group. Now, the halide group is where iodine's found, right? Now, iodine, there's fluorides in that same group, chloride, bromide, all those are all within that same group, which means they bind similarly. Now, hyperbaric chambers. Why does someone go into a hyperbaric chamber for oxygen?
They're lacking oxygen, or they're not uptaking it efficiently.
Right. So you're putting a tremendous amount around them, and their body's going to use that to bind to it, right? So just looking at fruits and vegetables, in this country especially, we spray pesticides on everything. Pesticides are sprayed everywhere. Look at the chemical makeup of it. It's bromide. Bromide doesn't leave the plant once it's sprayed onto it. It's into the roots, it's into the fruit. They test these things. They can find bromide in the fruit. When you start ingesting that, it binds the same way iodine does. Therefore, if it starts attaching to the T3 and T4 molecules, it activates that thyroid hormone. All of a sudden, your body may be producing thyroid hormone. It's never going to be utilized.
And what's even more frustrating about that point you just brought up is people think they're actually eating healthy by eating these fruits and these vegetables, yet they're just killing their thyroid because of what's being sprayed onto them.
What about when people drink water? I see it all the time too. A person's like, "Oh, I'm drinking my water." And they'll shake a bottle of like Aquafina or Dasani at me. And you look at the thing, it's fluoridated water. Years ago, we thought, put fluoride in water, it's going to help stop cavities. No, what helps stop cavities? Brushing your teeth with a non-fluoridated toothpaste, because they put it in that also. But fluoride, again, it's part of that halide group. It's going to bind the exact same way that iodine will. We just completely assault our systems with these things that inactivate a hormone that our body so desperately needs, that every cell's using. No wonder we have all these issues we have. No wonder thyroid conditions are. I mean, I know some doctors will say that 90% of their patients, to 96% of their patients are coming in underdiagnosed or undiagnosed thyroid conditions. Wow. That is nuts. That is nuts.
So it sounds like two quick things you could do then. First one you mentioned, increase iodized salt intake, essentially, correct?
No. So iodized salt, that's what I was talking about, how it's a devitalized nutrients. So they take a lot of the stuff out of, they add iodine to it, but it's not enough what your body needs. What my recommendation for anybody out there right now, if you want to start getting a good salt in your body, an unrefined sea salt, one brand that I'm huge on, Celtic sea salt, is the Salinas Naturally, or even Redmond's Real Salt. Make sure it's an unrefined salt. Get that in your system.
Pass on time, man.
No, you can't. That's why we have to start looking at our health as a Is something we invest in now, not once it's gone. Again, we were talking about earlier with my grandfather. He said one was proactive, the other was kind of reactive.
Definitely. You're right. Back to that point.
Once health runs out, man, now your time's running out also. You are in an absolute crunch. It's like, we're in our 30s right now. There's a lot of people even younger than us are having issues with their health. It's like,
yeah,
we start taking care of this now, man, like it opens up endless possibilities. You'd be that 85-year-old golfer I have, or 85-year-old patient that's so golfing and walking 18 holes. Like
age is just a number.
Yeah. So, I mean, if I could tack on to things to do, again, unrefined salt, and some of you might be out there like, well, there's iodized table salt. I need my iodine. We were just talking about that. One thing I would suggest, where you can get iodine from a lot of different foods, eggs, great source of it, right? Making sure if you get those organic as well, pasture raised, no junk hormones thrown into that. But getting eggs in your diet, if you only don't have a sensitivity to them, which the select few that have those will know, but getting eggs, there's a great source of iodine there. But also, getting your iodine levels checked. There's something called the goiter belt, which, in central part of the United States, right around the Great Lakes, really, the soil's very, it's lacking iodine. So the vegetables and fruits that are grown there, they're not really getting it that way either, like a lot of coastal places will. So you see more goiters in those areas, and goiter happens on the thyroid when iodine's not present, right? Which also, it's like, cysts that form on the thyroid. Women will see that cysts that form on their breasts when they have iodine deficiency. You'll see iodine deficiency, they'll form polycystic ovarian disease when they have do less of that. So
they're common disease.
They're crazy, especially in women nowadays, man. It's even more. But again, think about what we were just talking about. What are our foods? What are they lacking? What are we constantly insulting our systems with these fake fragrance that we spray in, like Febreze cans, all this stuff that all has these chemicals that assault our system. And
that's right.
Yeah. So one test, if you guys go to a lab called, it's a website, it's Hakala Labs. It's HAKALA labs.com. They have an iodine test, an iodine loading test. It's more accurate than even the blood sample. And you essentially take a 50 milligrams of Lugol's iodine solution, and then you collect your urine over the next 24 hours. Give them a sample of it, and they want to see what your excretion levels are at. Now, you send that off to their lab, they send you back the results. You want to be around that 90% excretion, showing that, hey, because your body doesn't hold on to iodine. It passes through the system. So if you don't have fluoride in your system from your toothpaste or fluoridated water, you're eating organic vegetables, you're getting the bromide out of your system. You're not having, fake candle smells. You're not having the Febreze cans and things that are filled with these other halide metals.
The deodorant too.
The system. Yeah, deodorant. Yeah, exactly. All these. Then you have your iodine test. It's an accurate test. You'll know, hey, should I start supplementing with this? And what can I take safely? And that's where you need to, again, find your healthcare practitioner in your area that's someone like myself, Brian, that can look at these and say, hey, like, maybe we start off with 25 milligrams of, Lugol's iodine, non-radioactive, obviously. That would be weird and very dangerous, but non-radioactive iodine, and seeing what levels are, and retesting it and seeing what it does for your health, and seeing what it does for your thyroid. All these things are just great little things that help the body. But again, it's every cell in your body uses it. So to me, it's like we can't ignore this anymore. We can't ignore how many people are being diagnosed with these issues, or not being diagnosed with these issues. And
thyroid, man, it's really almost like an epidemic in this country. Yeah, for sure.
And I'm sure you've had patients too that have had their thyroids because they get a nodule on them and they remove it. They think it may be cancer, so let's take the thyroid gland out.
And then they take the whole thyroid out, and guess what, man? Their whole entire life after that is just an uphill battle to try and get upside down. Any kind of regulation in weight, energy, sleep, their mood, everything gets completely thrown off, man. I've heard people get their thyroid out and their family members don't even recognize them anymore. Not how they look physically, because we could, that's one thing, but who they change who they become as a person.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah, man. It's a real thing. And that's something that's, again, medicine, I feel, well, at least I'm hoping, is kind of changing from that, where it's like, if something's wrong, just remove it. It's like, it's there for a reason. Like, we don't just have anything like that's, maybe we could lose a finger and be okay, but like you lose your whole hand. Like, You need
especially
that.
the thyroid hormone, the master hormone, man. I mean, we can't get rid of that thing.
No, for sure.
All
But
right,
we can go on all day about that. We'll leave it at that because that's a lot of information for people.
Yeah, but no, that's a lot of good helpful tips. What was the name of that website one more time?
Hakala, HAKALA labs.com, LABS. So it's you can go on Google and find them. They're based out of Montana or Wyoming, somewhere out there in the Midwest. But they also sell tabulated forms and like a little solution of iodine. So if you are lacking it, for practitioners out there listening to this that want to look into that stuff. Yeah. And it's awesome. It's a really, really great test. So I supplement with iodine now just because, looking at what my dad's dealt with and, getting those numbers checked now is important. So.
Yep. You know what? Yeah, I do think medicine is coming around, but what causes it to? Conversations like this, conversations that we open with public. So thanks for sharing that, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, man. So one last question. I know you don't have any children yet, but
that I know.
Imagine.
I'm kidding.
What you say?
That I know of. I'm kidding.
You're just talking about how great your wife is, man. Come on.
I know. I'm teasing.
All right. So imagine, you have a child and something tragic happens to you, and you're gonna pass tomorrow, and you only have 3 things to teach your child to live the rest of their life in a healthy manner. What are those 3 things? And they're guaranteed to follow them as long as they hear them for you. But you have 3 things to tell them. What would you say?
To live long and healthy, it sounds like ditch refined sugar. No more refined sugar, and increase your unrefined salt intake. That's 1. That's not 2. There's an and in there. That's one whole sentence.
Okay.
So I'm gonna say that's 1. Number 2, health is a lifelong journey. It's something that you take and get a hand on now. Like get your numbers checked, get your levels checked, get your body inspected from multiple practitioners, not just one.
Your neck x-rayed.
yeah, get your spine looked at. Like, let's not neglect our physical health. We only have one of those. Like, take care of this now, not later. And 3, geez, your mother's always right. No, no. Oh man, a 3rd thing I would give them. Don't ever root for Philadelphia sports ever.
That's a good one, man. That's good.
Honestly, I would just say, like, look, life is so quick. When we're in our 30s already. It feels like chiropractic college started 5 minutes ago. And here we are, 5 years into it. Just don't let moments go to waste, but also take care of this so you have more of those moments to enjoy, and your loved ones too.
Right. Cool, man. All right. Bonus question.
Oh boy. Bonus question.
Why is Wawa better than Sheets?
Why is Wawa better than Sheets? Okay. So
notice I didn't really give you the choice there.
I know. That's okay.
Over Wawa better than Sheets. This is completely actually, even from a health perspective, Wawa has some, banging salads. They had sourdough sandwiches last summer. They got rid of them this summer. My girlfriend and I were pretty devastated about that, but still, we're Wawa to the end, ride or die. Sheets, man. I mean, if you're like drunk, leaving the bars, I get it. Sheets is all right. But if you're trying to just like not feel like a total piece of crap, Wawa's your choice.
I mean, like, okay, so I know you're a big 80-20 rule. So 80% of the time we're following a very strict, very clean everything. 20% of the time you got to enjoy a little bit of the finer things in life.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
Maybe a Wawa, a hoagie. So I'm from Pittsburgh. So Sheets being from out there, Wawa being from the Philadelphia area.
Right.
I mean, I'm inclined to say Sheets, but honestly, since moving to the beautiful Sunshine State filled with freedom and everything else here, there's this amazing gas station down here, because Sheets and Wawa, they're gas station food joints extravaganzas. There's a place called Buc-ee's, and I kid you not, I may have to be switching my allegiance. Buc-ee's. It is like, the word. I'm not
spell it.
I think it's Bucees. Probably Oh, it's like a Bucky the Beaver.
Of course, it has like a weird spelling.
Yeah. It's like nothing. Yeah, it's not easy. Arguably the most unhealthy food on the face of the planet. It's a giant barbecue pit in the size of a Walmart-sized gas station with a staff that you walk into. They're singing to you. They are.
Wow.
It's
that sounds like somebody's version of heaven. Not sure whose it is, but
not the healthiest persons, that's for sure.
No.
I mean, like, again, no dog. I guess if you're gonna have to, if you're in an absolute jam, you haven't had food in 3 days, and you have those 3 places all of a sudden to pick from, man, Buc-ee's is the experience alone is going to be worth it.
There's a new player in the game, I guess you're saying, in terms of gas station food.
When they used to say the South will rise again, I never thought they were talking about gas stations, but here we are. I mean, this is truly something here.
You got to win at something, man.
They got to win at something. Yeah. But yeah, that's, I mean, again, that's if you want to destroy your thyroid, eat there every day. If you want to destroy the rest of your body, eat there every day. But, yeah.
80-20, man. Like you said, 80-20.
Yeah. You got to enjoy the 80-20. Yeah.
All right, man. Hey, you and I have enjoyed the 20% plenty of times together.
Oh yeah.
Hopefully we get to enjoy it soon. We get to talk about this 80% at times like this. So we always text all the time, different clinical pearls, things like that. Thanks for sharing all that about the thyroid, man. Any parting words?
No, obviously, if there's anybody listening here in the Florida area, I'm in beautiful Northeast Florida here, 2 different practices in Jacksonville, Meridian Integrative Wellness. I have to shout us out there. Where we're doing a lot of great things. We're doing not only chiropractic care, which, obviously it's amazing, it's awesome, but we're getting some incredible chiropractic care with nutritional stuff as well. We're doing IV infusions. We're doing blood work on all of our patients. We're doing bioidentical hormone replacements for people who are having true thyroid issues that could benefit from supplementing with like an Armor or a Nature Thyroid, Thyroid.
Right.
There's a couple different ones that they're bioidentical. They're completely natural. They're derivatives from either plants and animals. So there's your body recognizes it's little to absolutely almost no chance of having side effects that compared to a Synthroid. But we're doing a lot of that stuff, man, in our office, and it's been great. So yeah, of anybody that's in the Jacksonville area, St. Augustine, Ponte Vedra, all through there, that's where we're located at. It's good stuff.
Awesome. What's the name of your clinic again?
Meridian Integrative Wellness.
All right, man. All right. Hopefully somebody listens to this. Yeah. Hopefully somebody's having a thyroid issue, and they come to you and you fix them up, man. They tell everybody else, and guess what? We just keep passing along the gift of healing, buddy.
Yeah, man. Yeah. So, but thanks for having me on, and I hope I'm, welcome back, because this is fun.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely.
Awesome, buddy.
All right, Dr. Vish. Good seeing you, buddy.
All right. Likewise.